On the night of July 12, 2025, Ukraine endured one of the largest and most relentless aerial bombardments since the war began, marking a grim new chapter in the ongoing conflict. The sky was lit up by a barrage of explosions as cities across the country braced for impact. In a single, coordinated assault, over 620 strikes rained down. 26 cruise missiles and nearly 600 drones were launched simultaneously, targeting both military and civilian infrastructure. The sheer number and variety of weapons used in this attack was unprecedented, overwhelming even the most prepared defenses. The attack was meticulously planned to overwhelm Ukraine's air defenses, forcing them to make impossible choices about which threats to intercept. For civilians, the night was filled with fear and uncertainty, as air raid sirens blared and families rushed to shelters, hoping for safety. Drones buzzed overhead for hours, their ominous presence a constant reminder of danger. Explosions shattered the pre-dawn calm in cities far from the front lines, leaving destruction in their wake and disrupting the lives of millions. No region was spared. From bustling urban centers to quiet rural towns, the psychological toll was immense. The relentless attacks erased any illusion of safety, leaving families traumatized and communities on edge, unsure when or where the next strike might come. Russia's strategy is clear: exhaust Ukraine's air defenses and break civilian morale through relentless widespread attacks. Air defense crews worked through the night, often with little rest, as they tried to protect as much as possible from the onslaught. In June alone, Russia launched 10 times more missile and drone attacks than the previous year, according to military analysts. This dramatic escalation signals a deliberate effort to intensify pressure on Ukraine, both militarily and psychologically. By spreading fear and chaos, Moscow aims to pressure Kiev from within, a calculated tactic in a long, brutal war. As the conflict drags on, the scale and intensity of these attacks serve as a stark reminder of the immense challenges Ukraine continues to face. Over half the drones used in the attack were Iranian-made Shaheds, highlighting the deepening military partnership between Moscow and Tehran. These cheap, mass-produced drones have become a staple of Russia's campaign, saturating Ukrainian skies and overwhelming defenses. Russia's ability to import and now domestically produce thousands of these drones each month has allowed it to sustain high-tempo attacks. Launched in waves from multiple directions, Shaheds force Ukraine to use expensive interceptors on low-cost threats, draining Western-supplied resources. The international supply chain behind these drones has drawn calls for tougher sanctions on both Russia and Iran. For Ukraine and its allies, the Shahed swarm is more than a weapon. It's a symbol of authoritarian states collaborating to challenge global security. The partnership between Moscow and Tehran is reshaping the conflict and the international order. Ukraine's air defense forces responded with remarkable skill, intercepting 25 of 26 cruise missiles and over 300 drones. Western-supplied systems like Patriot and Iris-T, integrated with Soviet-era defenses, formed a layered shield over the country. Operators worked under extreme pressure, making split-second decisions to protect cities and critical infrastructure. Despite their success, some missiles and drones still broke through, exposing the limits of Ukraine's vast but stretched defenses. Each interception depletes Ukraine's limited supply of costly interceptors, while Russia's cheap drones keep coming. President Zelensky has repeatedly called for more air defense systems and munitions to close the gaps. The night's events underscored the urgent need for continued international support. Ukraine's defenders performed heroically, but the threat remains ever present. The battle for the skies is a race against time and resources. Air defenses can intercept many missiles, but they cannot shield every home, every street, or every family from the devastation that slips through. For every missile that is stopped, there are others that reach their targets, leaving behind a trail of destruction and heartbreak that no technology can prevent. On July 13th, at least 6 civilians lost their lives, and dozens more were wounded, ordinary people who were simply at home, walking to work or playing outside. The suddenness of the attack left families separated, neighbors searching for loved ones, and entire communities in shock. The strikes did not just target military sites, they struck regions like Chernivtsi and Sumy, places once thought to be out of harm's way. The sense of safety that residents once felt was shattered in moments, replaced by fear and uncertainty that now lingers in every corner. Among the victims were the elderly, parents, and children, people whose lives were changed forever in an instant. Families clung to each other amid the rubble, trying to make sense of the chaos, while children were comforted by rescue workers, their innocence stolen by the violence around them. Hospitals quickly filled with the wounded, from those with minor injuries to others fighting for their lives. Medical staff worked tirelessly, but the sheer number of casualties overwhelmed resources. The trauma extended beyond physical wounds, leaving deep emotional scars on survivors and their families. According to the United Nations, June 2025 marked the deadliest month for Ukrainian civilians in 3 years, with over 230 killed and 1,300 injured. These numbers are not just statistics. They reflect a growing crisis as attacks on civilian areas become more frequent and deadly. Since the full-scale invasion began, more than 13,500 civilian deaths have been officially verified, though the true toll is likely even higher. Each number represents a life cut short, a family left to mourn, and a community forever changed. Behind every statistic is a story, a family broken apart, a community gathering to grieve, and neighbors supporting one another through unimaginable loss. The pain is shared, but so too is the resilience of those left behind. The true cost of this war is not just measured in numbers, but in the futures lost, the dreams destroyed, and the lives forever altered. Each ruined playground, each empty classroom, is a stark reminder of what has been taken, and of the urgent need for peace. The barrage left deep scars on Ukraine's cities and towns, damaging homes, businesses, and vital infrastructure. In Sumy, Chernivtsi, and Lviv, residential buildings were torn open, leaving families displaced and communities destabilized. The destruction creates an immediate housing crisis and a pervasive sense of insecurity. Economic losses mount as the cost of repairs strains both individuals and the state. Russia's strategy aims to cripple Ukraine's ability to function, turning daily life into a struggle for survival. The psychological toll is severe. Air raid sirens, sleepless nights in shelters, and the loss of familiar landmarks erode morale. The war targets not just infrastructure, but the spirit of the Ukrainian people. Each attack deepens the wounds, both visible and invisible. In the aftermath of the devastating attacks, President Zelensky delivered a defiant and impassioned address to the nation and the world. He urged global leaders to move beyond statements of support, insisting that Ukraine needs more than words. It needs weapons, sanctions, and real action. Zelensky's message was clear: the time for hesitation has passed, and the world must stand united against aggression. He called for the immediate delivery of advanced air defense systems, especially Patriot batteries, emphasizing that every day of delay puts more innocent lives at risk. Zelensky highlighted how Ukraine's defenders are holding the line, but without adequate support, the cost in human life and suffering continues to rise. Zelensky also demanded tougher, more comprehensive sanctions to cut off Russia's ability to finance and produce weapons, including the Iranian-made drones that have terrorized Ukrainian cities. He stressed that sanctions must target not only individuals, but also the industries fueling the war machine. While expressing gratitude to Ukraine's allies for their ongoing support, Zelensky warned that any hesitation or delay only emboldens the aggressor. He urged partners to act decisively, reminding them that unity and speed are crucial in the face of such threats. Ukraine's fight, he said, is not just for its own survival, but for the future of democracy and the rule of international law everywhere. The trenches in Ukraine are the front lines of a much larger struggle that affects the entire world. The president's message to global leaders was resolute. Defending Ukraine is not an act of charity, but a vital investment in the security and stability of the entire international community. Only by strengthening Ukraine's sky shield and increasing economic pressure on Moscow can the world protect innocent civilians and force the Kremlin to reconsider its campaign of violence. Zelensky called on the international community to move from condemnation to concrete action through military aid, humanitarian support, and unwavering diplomatic pressure. The stakes, he reminded the world, are nothing less than the future of peace, order, and the values that bind nations together. The world's response now will shape the course of history for generations to come. Moscow claimed its strikes targeted only military sites, denying responsibility for civilian casualties. The Kremlin's narrative omits the destruction of homes and loss of life, blaming any civilian harm on Ukrainian air defenses. This tactic seeks to deflect blame and legitimize its actions, despite mounting evidence of indiscriminate attacks. Russia also publicized its own air defense successes, portraying itself as both aggressor and victim. The information war is as fierce as the physical conflict, with Moscow constructing an alternate reality to justify its campaign. The gap between official statements and on-the-ground evidence is stark and deliberate. As bombs fell, diplomatic efforts continued, but hopes for peace remained dim. U.S. and European leaders pushed for negotiations, but Russia's actions undermined trust and progress. President Trump's outreach to Putin yielded no breakthroughs, while European peacekeeper proposals were swiftly rejected by Moscow. The Kremlin insists on its war aims, refusing any settlement that doesn't recognize its territorial gains. Putin's talk of negotiations contrasts sharply with relentless attacks, making genuine dialogue seem impossible. For Ukraine and its allies, peace remains elusive as long as violence continues. In the wake of devastation, Ukraine mourns but remains resolute. The latest escalation has spurred allies to deliver more air defense systems, answering Zelensky's urgent pleas. The belief only by denying Russia a military victory can real negotiations begin. Yet the path to peace is blocked by deep divisions over Ukraine's sovereignty and future. The international community faces a delicate balance, supporting Ukraine's defense while seeking diplomatic openings. Amid tragedy, hope endures. In the defenders, the medics, and the ordinary citizens who rebuild each day. The search for peace continues, driven by the unbreakable spirit of a nation and the world's longing for an end to suffering.